December 16th, 2019. I sat down with the maestro, Richard Smallwood, to talk about his new book, Total Praise. We were supposed to run that interview on February 14th, 2020, but literally it was lost. And then when he passed away, I said, man, we need to run that. And I was on vacation, couldn't find it. When I got back, we were able to locate it. And so we wanted to share this with you. It's a fascinating conversation as he talks about his influences, the people who he appreciated the most, going to Howard University with Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack. Lots of things we talked about in this 45-minute interview. And so we wanted to share that with you. Of course, he passed away last week at the age of 77. His homegoing will be on January 24th, 4th at First Baptist Church, Glen Art in Maryland. We're going to be live streaming that here on the Black Star Network. But I really hope you enjoy this. This is my conversation with the great Richard Smallwood about his autobiography, Total Praise. Richard Smallwood, how you doing?
I'm fine, Roland. How are you?
I'm doing good. First,
Awesome.
books are always personal, especially autobiographies written by the author.
Absolutely.
For you, how long did it take you?
A little over 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What took so long?
You know, there was so much of my life. I did a lot of research on my ancestry. And then some of the stuff was sort of hard to deal with. Some of the things that I didn't know if I wanted to be that transparent, you know, about my depression issues and things in my family, you know, scandals in my family. So it took a while. I kept stopping and starting. But I'm glad that I finished it.
I interviewed Walter Mosley once, and I was telling him, first of all, I don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction. And Walter said, well, he said, you can actually be more truthful when it's fiction.
Really?
He said, because folks cut corners when it's nonfiction, because they don't necessarily want all
of it.
Of it out.
I get it.
And so, was that something that you had to grapple with? And did you finally say, you know what, if I'm going to do it, put it all out there?
That's basically what I did. I felt that I could say something. I had the platform to say some things that would help people, you know, about mental health, about being illegitimate, about, and then I wanted to talk about my musical life, my tenure at Howard, you know, how I got to where some of the songs came from that people want to know about. So, you know, it was more than just the difficult things. Of course, the death of my mom was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. And so reliving that was not easy, you know, talking about it and being frank with it. But I just wanted to, hopefully, I didn't want to tell a tell-all or some kind of scandal book. I just wanted to tell about my life and hopefully the things that would help other people and make a difference in people's lives.
So when you talk about a couple of things you just said depression, but also being illegitimate. I mean, again, those are very personal things for people, but it's also stuff that people actually deal with every day.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I didn't find out about my heritage until probably 2000. My mother told me that Smallwood was not my father. And of course, Smallwood and I had a very stormy kind of relationship. He was physically abusive to me as I was growing up. He was also a pedophile and molested a number of little friends of mine, girls friends of mine when I was small. So, I mean, to be honest with that.
And you knew at the time?
I didn't know all of it. When I was 11, my mother said, we got to have an adult conversation.
Wow, at 11?
At 11. And because it involved one of the little girls at the church, because he was a pastor, and one of my best friends. And I think my mother thought it was going to blow up, and I would hear about it. So she'd rather tell me first before it got back to me. And so we talked about it, you know. I never heard anything else about it, but it certainly was not the first nor the last. There was a pattern even before I was born. So that and physical abuse, which probably was the reason that I ran to music, and it felt so safe and so comfortable. When I would, get physically abused, I would go to the music. I'd go to the record player, I would go to the piano, I would go to, I would take the Christmas decorations out of my mother off the Christmas tree. Mother had angels and form a choir. I would stand in front of the mirror and pretend like I was singing in front of thousands of people. That was my escape. That was my fantasy. And so a lot of that, was the foundation of who I was to become. So everything happens for a reason.
When we talk about that love of music, Charlie Wilson, when I interviewed him, he talked about where he was surrounded. It was music all the time. And so, what was the music that was being played in your house that inspired you, that moved you?
Everything. My mother said before I start talking, I was humming melodies that I heard at church. So they would bring me home and put me in the crib, and I just started humming, what a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, Jesus, keep me near the cross. And sort of tripped her out because she was like, this kid can't talk. He's humming recognizable melodies. So she got me a toy piano, a blue toy piano when I was 2, and I would bang out the rhythms on the piano and hum. And then she started taking me to concerts. She listened to, I grew up listening to people like, Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald and Nancy Wilson, and she played a lot of the then pop music on the radio that I would hear, Patti Page and just a whole bunch of Nat King Cole, just a whole bunch of people. And then, of course, I had the church influence as well. And I had she would take me to hear the Davis Sisters and the Clara Ward singers. She would also she brought me home a recording of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 when I was about 10. And said, if you like this music, I'll take you to some classical concerts. I would go to the classical concerts. I'd go to the gospel concerts. My stepfather didn't allow secular music in the house. So when I was about 14, 13, I started sneaking Motown in the house. The first record I snuck in the house was Dancing in the Street by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. That was the first. And he didn't say anything, so I just kept, bringing more stuff. I just loved music, all kinds, whether it was Broadway, whether it was jazz, whether it was gospel, whether it was classical. I just loved it all. And my mother sort of fueled that because she made sure I was exposed to it, and she would take me to different settings where the music was played.
So as you are going through school, as you are matriculating, when does it hit you that this is what I am going to do?
All my life. When I was 5 years old, I announced to her I was going to be a gospel artist. And she said, you are? And I said, yes, so I need you to get me a robe made. So there's a picture in the book, actually. I was 5 years old, and she had me a black robe made. And I would put that robe on and put the recordings on and stand in front of the mirror and just sing or play. So it's something I always knew. And it's something they always knew because I was so drawn to music that it was sort of evident, I think, to all of my relatives that it was something that I was going to do. So I never wanted to be. I wanted to be a cowboy for a while. I went through that stage, but the musician is all I've ever wanted to do, and. Thank God that she encouraged that. She never said, you can't make no money at it, Also, my other relatives say, so what are you going to do for a living, And, of course, I taught. I taught in the D.C. public schools. I taught privately, all of that. But my goal was to do what I've been doing for the past 40 years.
What is it about music that, from your perspective, affects us in such a unique way? I don't care what your age is, your race, your gender, sexual orientation, doesn't matter. Music does something to us.
Absolutely. I think music is spiritual. I think that it's something beyond us. I've had the opportunity to perform in Russia, then it was the Soviet Union, all over Europe and other countries, Finland, and the lyrics never seemed to make a difference. When we sang, people would cry, people would weep. So music it transcends cultural boundaries, it transcends language barriers. It's something that's spiritual that people feel in the innermost parts of their hearts. And I think when you write from those places, and I think with me, I probably wrote a lot from a place of pain because that's what that's what I dealt with a lot. I think that people sense that spiritually, they sense it, and so they don't need the language or they don't need the meaning. They can feel it because sometimes you'll just hear. It may not be lyrics to it. It may be just a orchestral piece or something that will just move you to tears. Or something about the chords. Or something about. I think it's very spiritual. I think it's very spiritual. Absolutely.
You talked about Howard University, and to be able for you walking on that campus among a who's who among Black America.
Absolutely. Debbie Allen was in my class. Felicia Allen Rashad was 2 years ahead of me. Donny Hathaway was 3 years ahead of me. But I got there in the midst of some of the greatness. You know, Donnie would take time and show me chords as a freshman and show me how to incorporate things in gospel music, chord and harmony-wise, that I'd never heard of before. Because when I grew up, you can play too many jazz chords in the church because they would get you. They was like, oh, that's too jazzy, boy. This ain't no club, you know? So
even though that jazz came out of gospel.
Absolutely.
I mean, the foundation of that is gospel.
Absolutely. It's all connected. But, you know, church folk have always been very picky about how it sounded. It can sound to what they considered worldly. Donnie taught me that you can use any kind of chord you want just as long as it's a good chord and it makes sense musically, you know? So I had so many. Roberta Flack was my 8th grade music teacher. You know, so I had so many people put in my pathway to sort of lead me to where I think God had planned for me to go before I was born.
You talk about church folks being picky. How have you had to deal with that? I mean, I think back when the Winans did a song with Teddy Riley. Oh, folks lost their mind. Folks lost their mind with Kirk Franklin. But going back, they lost their mind with Sam Cooke.
Right.
And what's crazy is that go to any one of those art forms, gospel is the base of it.
Absolutely.
As one of the Pointer Sisters songs, Neutron Dance. I talk about all the
church.
time.
That's church.
I've done video. I've done on Instagram. I say, y'all, this is a church song.
Church.
If you listen to the clapping, the organ, that is a straight up church song.
Absolute church. Absolute church. You know, Edwin went through the same thing with Oh Happy Day. They basically put him out the church because of it. You know. Because they
Oh Happy Day?
Oh Happy Day in 1969 when that came, 68 when that came out, the church was horrified. I have no idea why, but for that time, and they were playing it on secular stations, and the Hawkins singers were singing in clubs, they were singing, you know, in Vegas. They were
Same thing happened to the Clark sisters.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, thank God that those kinds of people who were the pioneers were undaunted and they went on and did what it was that they wanted to do. I had a lot of problems simply because I mixed genres, classical, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of Motown, and people didn't accept what I wanted to do, you know? So I just kept, someone told me, Dr. George Butler, who was the head of Blue Note Records, told me, Richard, you're 10 years ahead of your time, and you're going to have to wait till the rest of the world catches up to you. I was a student at Howard when he told me that.
Well, that sucks. You got to wait?
I know, and it sucked to me. But, 10 years to the day that he told me that was when I got my first record deal.
Wow.
So, I mean, a lot of times you have to really be strong in what you believe and believe this is something that I've got to do. This is something that I'm here for. And regardless of whether folk like it or not, I'm going to do it. And you just keep doing it until people catch on. Now they call me traditional, but then I was contemporary.
Wow. Well, which again shows you in terms of how music changes.
Right.
I think that what that does is it it limits a person's gift
Absolutely. Yeah.
because a new generation can bring on a whole new sound, and more importantly, you still are reaching people
Yeah. Absolutely.
because there's some music that I mean, look, I can tell you when I hear the traditional choral music, I'm like, man, when the next song? Because that's just not what I mean. My parents went to a Methodist church in Houston, and I hated when the choral. I was like, here we go. I'm like, Lord, here we go, because that had no interest to me.
Right. Right.
And an older congregation probably was perfectly comfortable with that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think you have to. I think you have to be diverse as a writer. I mean, I think the problem is when you write one kind of thing that only appeals to one sector of the listening audience. I think you have to be diverse. And down through the years when I've recorded, I've tried to put something for everybody, for the senior citizens, for the younger folk, and all of that. Because I just think we're supposed to reach everybody. And like you said, when they put binders on you or chains on you in terms of what you can and cannot do, that limits people's gifts because people's gifts are so much. If everybody was the same, it'd be boring. But everybody is unique in what they've been given in terms of their gift.
You have worked with many of the folks who they would dare say would be on the Mount Rushmore of gospel music. Your top three, who you learned the most from?
Gospel or just music in general?
Only separated. Music in general, then gospel.
Okay, music in general. I think Aretha, I learned more from her. We had these long talks on the phone, and I just sort of garnered from her wisdom, things she would tell me and things of her, experiences like that. And because I admired her so much since I was 18 years old, it was just an amazing friendship. It really was.
I don't think a lot of people really understand her musical brilliance. They just think in terms of being a singer. But
She was amazing.
but to be self-taught, to
Absolutely.
Her ear
Absolutely. Phenomenal.
can pick up something that quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just amazing. And I think I just respected her so because of what she had accomplished and because of the gift that she had, and certainly Edwin Hawkins was one of my biggest influences as well. He sort of took me under his wing when I was about 20 or 21, took me on the road with him, began to play for him. And again, this was someone who was so full of wisdom, who had gone through the whole thing about not being accepted in the church, who had gone through the thing about your music is different. It doesn't sound like anything else. It's not quartet enough. It's not choral enough. It's got jazz chords. It's got jazz harmonies in it, So there were people like that, like Roberta Flack as well, who just taught me a lot of things by just by me sitting there observing and listening. I learned so much from them. So I'm glad that people like that were put in my way to sort of, and like Donnie, and I'm so proud of his daughter, Layla, who is just, I said, your daddy's living in your throat. He really, really is, She's just amazing. But I think what would he be doing if he was still alive today? I can imagine the wonderful, amazing music that he would be writing and performing.
You talked about, obviously, your issues with depression, but also looking at him.
Yes,
what he had to deal with.
Absolutely. And the thing about that is that when we were in school, I never saw a sign of that. Donnie was one of the nicest, most humble people I think I've ever met. He would play for anybody on the talent shows at Howard. I mean, just a really nice guy. And when he left Howard and began to, gained popularity when his records were released, we started hearing things of strange behavior. We were all still in school, and we thought it was drugs. We didn't know
Right.
what it was. And that was the thing, Donnie's on drugs, and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until much later that I understood that he had, major, major, major mental problems, and because that just was not him. He was just a wonderful, wonderful person. But you just never know what people are dealing with. And a lot of times I think that mental issue is what feeds into the creativity. It has so much, that connection is so strong, I think.
Well, I think that, I mean, giving an example today, Kanye West.
Absolutely.
In terms of dealing with that, him not wanting to take his medicine, not take his drugs,
right.
Which some people say has an impact on one's creativity, but you also have an issue with one's sanity.
Exactly. And I mean, I sit here as witness that the medication that people take now are not the medications of 20 and 30 years ago. I mean, I've been on medication for many, many, many years, and it hasn't stifled my creativity, but it depends on what you take, and depends on what your psychiatrist, prescribes for you. But you can still live a normal life. And that's why I'm always on the mountaintop screaming, get help, get professional help, reach out, because the church, again, they'll say, well, you're possessed. You come up here and lay on the altar for about 5 hours, and then we'll cast it out of you. Well, if you had high blood pressure, if you had cancer, if you had whatever you had, you'd go to a medical doctor. Mm-hmm. So there are doctors that are here for the mind as well. There's nothing wrong with taking advantage of that, and I'm glad that I finally got up the nerve to go, because it was one of the best things that I've ever done was to go into therapy. It changed my life. Absolutely.
Earlier you mentioned the pain in writing. And so many people say to songwriters, until you have dealt with pain, mm-hmm. you are not truly a great songwriter. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
I don't know. I think the pain, again, fuels what it is that's in you that causes you to write, because you're writing from your experience. Sometimes you're writing from hurt. And I'm not saying that every writer has to go through intense pain in order to write good music, but for me, I think that had everything to do with the music I've written. It comes from that place. And I think people recognize it, people's spirits pick up on it when you write from that place, and they can identify with it. And for me, I just think some of the music that I've written has come from, especially the ones that people say, "Oh, I love that song." And I'm like, if you only knew what I had to go through to write that song, So I think there is a correlation between the pain and the creativity and really writing, because for me, it's harder to verbalize it. The easiest way for me to talk about it is through the music, And I think I can do a better job of really portraying what I feel through the music, as opposed to just talking about it.
Of the songs we're familiar with, what would be, of those songs, what song that people would be shocked to understand the backstory?
Probably Total Praise. That song, I mean, it being a praise song, you would think it came from a upbeat kind of positive situation. Actually, when I wrote it, my mother was very ill. My godbrother was terminally ill. My mother went into foster care. She started taking in foster care kids when I was 19. So I had all these little foster care foster brothers and sisters, and one of my foster brothers had a complete mental breakdown. So I was like being caregiver, going from my house to the hospital, trying to take care of my loved ones, and it got so overwhelming that one afternoon I was sitting at the piano and I just started crying. I was like, God, I can't seem to do anything to help. I can be there for them. I can't make the pain go away. I can't make the illnesses go away. I just feel so inadequate. And the song Total Praise just started coming to me. And I was trying to write a pity party song because I wanted to say, okay, Lord, I will lift my eyes to the hills, so I need you to, come down from the hills and dry my tears and rock me in the bosom of Abraham or something, but it kept going towards this praise song. And when I finished it, it took me maybe about a half an hour, 25 minutes to half an hour to finish it. I realized that it was a song about praise, whether it was mountaintop praise, which is easy when everything is going right.
Right.
But this was like a valley praise song, praising God when we can't see the outcome, when we don't know how it doesn't seem like it's going to end right, but we praise him anyhow because we know he's in control, and we know that he's got our backs regardless of what we see or what we feel. And so that song came from, a heavy place. And it's like probably the most popular song I've ever done, So it's funny sometimes when you think about the backstories. The backstories sometimes are very misleading to what people think.
Well, I think the Earth, Wind, and Fire recently talked about one of their songs, and same thing. And I forgot the name of it. And they were talking about all the people play at their weddings. And they're like, y'all, that song is about a one-night stand.
Right, I
There's reasons.
Right.
And they were like, yo, that's a one-night stand.
Yeah.
They said that's not
it's not a wedding song.
Not a wedding song. But again, folks don't quite understand that.
The lyric, right.
When I interviewed John Legend, and interviewing singers is different from interviewing somebody who's a singer and a songwriter. So I'm always curious about their process. Will Downing, I was interviewing him once in one of his hit songs. He said, I just finished making love to a woman and it was amazing, and I got up and just went and wrote a song.
Okay.
John Legend says he likes to write as if he's going to work, where he gets his briefcase, goes into the studio, sits down, and sort of a very, very structured way in which he writes. How do your songs come to you? What is your process?
They come to me in very strange ways. I'm usually nowhere near a piano. I could be in the grocery store, I can be in the airport, I can be in a hotel, and something will just hit me. And thank God for my phone, because I just take it out and put it down until I can get home and get to a piano. But very seldom do I sit down at a piano and write. I may have my mind on something else, and all of a sudden a lyric will come into my mind, or either a melody will come into my mind, and of course I have to put it down immediately because I'll forget it if I don't. But that's the way it usually comes to me. Just sometimes I dream them. There are times I always keep my phone next to my bed in case I hear something in my dreams. I wake up and put it down and go back to sleep and get to it the next morning. So for me, it always comes in very odd ways. Very odd ways, not the traditional way. Well, I'm going to go in the studio and write a song. I think if I say that I'm going into the studio and write a song, I don't think I would get anything accomplished, because that's just not the way I've ever been. It's always come very odd.
So have you been in conversations with people, and all of a sudden you just sort of check out?
Yes. Some of my friends, they used to say when I was in school, Richard goes to the planet Zatar, because we'd be talking and I would just like drift on and say, he's in Zatar again, because I'll hear something or my mind will go somewhere else, and I'm trying to hold on to it so I don't lose it, and that's the way that it usually happens for me. It's the way it usually happens for me.
You tell this interesting story about Sammy Davis Jr., which, reading it, man, you blew it.
I blew it big time. One of my dear friends, Linda Gravatt, who I went to Howard with, Sammy Davis Jr. was her godfather. Sammy Davis Jr. came to the Kennedy Center And so she asked me and some of the other kids I went to school with, you want to go see my goddaddy Sammy? I was like, sure. You know, I mean, what an idol, an icon. And so we went to see him, and the show was just amazing. He could do everything. And so we went backstage, and evidently she had told him about me. And I've always been very, very shy and very introverted. And a lot of times when people put me on the spot, I would freeze up. So when she introduced me to him, she said, "Oh, Uncle Sammy, this is Richard. This is the guy I was telling you about. He plays, man. He writes, he sings." So there was a piano. We were backstage in the green room, and he said, "Oh man, come and play something for me." And I said, "No, that's all right." And when I tell you, I have never been cussed out that royally in my life. My friends, when I got in that car, some of my friends didn't speak to me for like, 2 or 3 weeks because they were so upset with me. Because I got terrified and I froze, I guess I was maybe 22, 23, something like that. But I always remember that. And now and then.
Was it the only time you met him?
That was the only time.
Wow, you never got a second shot.
Never got a second shot. That's why I'm like, if you get a shot, you better take it, because it may not come around again.
Well, that's one of the things that I tell folks all the time, that you're never aware where God places you at a given moment.
Absolutely.
And that you have to always be ready.
Yeah, you do. You do. And I wasn't ready. That was the least thing on my mind. I just wanted to meet him and tell him how much I enjoyed the show, because the show was amazing. I didn't want him to ask me to play.
Now, after that, were you always prepared?
I think so, yeah. That happened very early on. And so I learned from that experience, be prepared. Get a song in your mind, so if somebody catches you off guard, have something you can play, have something you can sing or something,
Now, has the reverse happened, where you were in the Sammy Davis Jr. position and somebody met you?
Absolutely.
And froze?
Yeah.
And how did you get them through it?
I would just usually talk to them and say, it's all right. You don't have to be afraid. I'm just Richard, just a normal guy and stuff like that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, But I always try to put them at ease. Sammy was like, "Oh, okay, man. All right, well, good to meet you." And he went on to the next person. So that was my lesson.
Well, I think of a lot of people, we certainly have those lessons.
Yeah.
And I tell folks all the time, always be prepared.
Yeah.
Always be ready.
Exactly.
Always.
You gotta be. You gotta be.
If you had to assess gospel music today, where is it? How do you see it?
Well, it's at a different place. Somebody asked me that earlier, and I was saying, I don't really hear the kind of writing that really stands the test of time. A lot of times I hear ditties and just something for the top 10 Billboard charts. I've always wanted to write music that will last long after I'm gone. The Amazing Graces, the Precious Lords. The
Right.
songs that have, because I think that's the kind of songs that brought my forefathers through, and people still listen to it. So I've always wanted that, and I think a lot of times people now write for the popularity, as opposed to writing something with some meat on it that really is going to make a difference in people's lives. People always ask me, what is the most amazing thing that has happened to you in your career? And they expect me to say some kind of award, or Grammy, or Stellar, or Dove, or something like that. And I always say, it's when people come up to me and said, "Your music got me through my mother's death.
Right.
Your music got me through my divorce. Your music got me through school." Because I think that's what music should do. It should reach that place in other people that really encourages people and
Right.
makes a difference in their lives.
Well, I think it's just like, I remember reading a piece Andre 3000, been off the scene for a while.
Right.
I think he was going to Coachella, and he was talking to Prince. And he didn't want to do any of his own music. And Prince, who went through that, who would do concerts and didn't want to do any old music, people like,
Right.
bro, we ain't trying to hear the new stuff.
Right.
And Prince said, do your old stuff. That's what they want to hear.
Right.
But it's also how folks feel. I say to Tamla Mann, I mean, from this point for the rest of her life, she can't do a concert without singing "Take Me to the King."
Exactly.
I mean, every art, to me, if you are, when you're an artist and you have that kind of song, Richard Roundtree said this about acting. He got upset when people kept calling him Shaft. Because he was angry that it defined him. And his dad said, son, do you understand that a whole bunch of actors who have gone through this life and they've done stuff and don't nobody remember them?
Nobody know who they are.
He said that it caused him to change his view because he said he then embraced it. He said because clearly that role had an effect on people. And I think that's also, so to me, when you are a singer, when you have that song that does it to folk, and then if you don't sing it, they mad?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think I went through that when I was younger because I got some new stuff, you know, but they want to hear, you know, I love the Lord, you know, they want to hear Jesus, you're the center of my joy. They want to hear those songs that, because if I look at my own life, there's music that when I hear it, I know exactly where I was or what I was going through. It becomes a part of the fabric of who I am. And that's how people are. They want to hear that song that got them through whatever situation, or they want that familiarity. So you can't, I don't care how many songs you write. So I put a medley together, about 4 or 5 of those songs that we sing every time we get up, because I know people want to hear. And the response is just like crazy, because people identify with that. Oh, that's my song. You know? So
I mean, I think if Kirk Franklin could put out 100 new songs, but if he did a concert and didn't do Melodies from Heaven, they'll run him out that joint.
Absolutely. There's songs that define you, and they not only define you, but they have specific purpose and inspiration in other people's lives. And I think sometimes people want to embrace that, you know?
You mentioned songs, everlasting to everlasting. How often do you, when you run into artists, do you pull them aside and try to teach or drop wisdom? I mean, for me, I can see people, I can meet folks, and I see them on television. And I'll try to do that, and some people take it, some people don't. For me, I don't care. Because for me, this is not about how do they greet you on the street. It's really, to your point, same thing. When people come up to me and they say, man, I had no idea about a lot of this stuff. What you've taught me, what I've learned. And I mean, I had a brother come up to me in Atlanta airport, and he walked to me and he said, thank you. Shook my hand. I said, appreciate it. He said, no, thank you. And walked off. That's all he said. But I knew exactly what he was talking about. So how often do you, when you see somebody who is a gospel singer and they're not maximizing all that's in them, do you pull them aside?
Absolutely. Now, I think for me, I have to have some kind of relationship with them. I'm just not gonna go up and say, "Hey, you." You know, you
see, I will.
This. I know you will.
No, I just think sometimes it's like when you see it. I sort of think about the Sammy Davis Jr. piece. I may not see that person again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if I see something, I'm gonna offer you a critique or something. That might help you. And if you receive it, great. If you don't, that's on you.
I get it.
That's just me.
I get it. I get it. But there have been a number of people I've gone to, especially if I see a major talent there and I don't think that they're utilizing it the way they could or being all they could be, you know. And I was talking earlier today about the whole thing about we didn't have social media, you know, back in my day. Now I've got this crowd of young people who follow me, you know, who say, Mr. Smallwood, tell me about this. Tell me about how can I make my writing better? How can I have longevity? You know, and it gives me an opportunity where I probably wouldn't meet them if it hadn't been for social media.
Right.
To really sort of reach out to these kids coming behind me and say, okay, listen, this is what you need to do. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. This is what you need to do, you know. So social media, and I'm on Instagram, I'm on, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. So I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that I wouldn't talk to normally, who I think I can help. Because I look at the people who reach back for me.
Right.
You know, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So I think that we have that, that's something we have to do.
That's what I never understand. I spoke at the University of Oklahoma and years ago, and a student said to me, aren't you afraid of sharing all of this wisdom and insight because somebody in this room might take it and be better than you? I said, well, first, I ain't scared of nobody in this room.
Right.
I said, because two, don't think for a second that I'll stop learning.
Absolutely.
I said, but to me, knowledge is completely wasted if you keep it to yourself.
Absolutely.
But the flip side is that the other piece is just that people, I had this, I so wish I had a camera going, but that was this. We were Jeffrey Osborne golf tournament. Massive storm came through and it got wiped out. And we're sitting at this table, and to my right is Ahmad Rashad, and seated next to him was Eddie Levert, and seated next to him was Barry Bonds, and seated next to him was Sugar Ray Leonard. And we're sitting and talking, and we were talking about the greatness within all that we do. So Ahmad was talking about being a wide receiver. Eddie was talking about being a singer.
Right.
Barry Bonds was talking about being a hitter. Sugar Ray was talking about boxing. And it was just this amazing conversation of just greatness within what we do and how we do it and the craft and what makes us great. Right. So Sugar Ray was going, man, you could have been a great boxer. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, oh, no. He said, I saw you dancing last night. He said, your footwork is, he said, a man your size, your footwork. He said, man, I was just watching you and I'm going, dude, you had some of the best footwork. He said, no. He said, I was watching your footwork and was like, man, he's got great footwork. Okay. And so then we were just, we were just talking about just different things. Right. It was just this amazing conversation and how we were all sharing this unique insight in terms of what makes us as good at what we do. And Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, talked about mastermind group. And I think for a lot of people, they don't do that enough where they put themselves in position to learn from others. Yeah. Like you can be here, but there's still somebody who can still teach you something.
Absolutely. You can always learn. And that's my prayer and my desire, that I will never stop learning, because the more I learn, the better I become. And I think it's so important that I do reach back to people that are coming behind me and encourage them, you know, because it's so important. I've never had an issue with showing somebody a chord or talking about songwriting, because I think I have the knowledge that I have simply because I'm there to help other people. So
name an artist you would love to write a song for. Okay, name two. One who's deceased, who you would have loved to have written a song for, artist or group, and then living.
Oh, wow. Let me see. Deceased. I wrote something for so many people. That's a good question. Maybe
Sammy.
somebody like, maybe, you know what? Ella Fitzgerald. I loved her. Loved her. I would have loved to have written something for her. Absolutely.
All right, someone alive.
Yeah. Alive. He's a writer, and he writes his own stuff, but I would love to write something for Stevie Wonder. Because I've always loved his gift. Always loved his gift.
Ask him.
Yeah, I will.
Call him up.
I never, you know, I remember I was singing for Sissy Houston's birthday party at her Sunday service in church, and Stevie was in the audience, and the audience was singing Total Praise, and he was standing up singing. I was like, Stevie Wonder knows my song, you know, and everyone was like, fool, of course he knows it, you know. So sometimes you put yourself in, you're surprised at how the music reaches.
Right.
Past, you know, genres. It's music. Good music is good music, you know. So that's a good idea. I think I will.
Do that. I'll send him a text too. Steve,
Okay.
Last question for you. I ask every book author this. What was your wow moment in writing this? Whether you're researching or autobiography, where they're writing it and they go, wow. Whether it was a memory or was something, what was that one wow moment for you when you were writing Total Praise?
I think the wow, well, there were a number of them. Well, one that sort of stands out in my mind is that my relationship with my stepfather was very volatile. And so I grew up, and even after he passed, right after I graduated from Howard, he passed like 2 months after I graduated. So I had all this stuff in me that I never got out to tell him, you know, and sometimes I would go to his gravesite and holler at the tomb, you know, because it's like there were so many unresolved things that I didn't understand. The wow moment for me is that, number one, he was a pastor. Number two, he was a musician. He was the one that would open up the hymn book and say, okay, play such and such a hymn. Now transpose it, put it in A flat. Now put it in D flat. He was the one that said, you got to play for the church. I didn't want to play for the church because I was too shy. He was like, nah, if I have to put a curtain around you, you're going to play for the church. If he had not done that, if my mother had married someone else, I probably wouldn't even been in the church. But he was such a church person that he insisted, and I was like, okay, I'm beginning to understand his purpose in my life, because he had so much to do with the foundation of my musical journey, you know, because he was the one, you need to learn how to play in more than one key. You know, suppose somebody starts a song in church in A and you can't play in A, you're gonna sit there and look stupid. You know, if he hadn't forced me to do that, I would have never done it. And so it has so much to do. So that happened near the end of the book. And I was like, wait a minute. All of the negative stuff that happened between us, I understand now his purpose in regard to me. You know, so that blew my mind, because I had to look over all the other stuff, all the negative stuff, and said, listen, he really had a purpose in my life. He was the one that said, look, I was 7 years old. He was like, you're going to start playing for church. I said, I can't play in front of all those people. Yes, you can. He was the one that pushed me to do it. And so he's so much of who I am today, regardless of the negative stuff.
Total Praise.
Yep.
The autobiography, Richard Smallwood.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Roland.
a lot.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.